welcome listener feedback. Email your comments to wdev@radiovermont.com.
The energy.
How does anybody live and drive in Boston every single day? This guy stopped in the middle of the road with his hazard lights on. This guy won't yield. That guy won't let you go. That guy passes in front of you. That guy goes 3 lanes of traffic all in one shot. How does anybody do this?
The passion.
Look, if the Red Sox aren't going to play Yoshida Endeavors as they're about to get swept, then we might as well just give up and go home.
The opinions on all your favorite teams.
I'm glad that Mac Jones looks better. That's really important. He needs to look better. But if it were a video game, he'd still have an overall rating of 76, and that ain't cutting it.
This is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
What's up, everybody? A very happy Thursday here on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. And it's a very happy Thursday because we're actually here. We're actually together again. Tuesday I was out. Thank you to Lee for filling in on that. Yesterday we had Red Sox baseball. I was at the U.S. Open in New York yesterday. An incredible experience, something I'd never done before. I'll tell you all about it in the 6 o'clock hour, about how my last couple of days, when I was at the Mets game on Tuesday night. It was a lot of traveling here in the last couple of days, but I'm back now and happy to be back with you again. I will talk with you about the U.S. Open just after 6 o'clock. Buster Olney of ESPN is going to join us live. He'll be here at 5:45, so that's about 15 minutes from now. Danny McKivergan is on the other side of the glass engineering the program as always. He'll help us get Buster on when the time comes at 5:45. You can get in on the text line 802-585-3026. A lot to get to on the Patriots and their roster decisions from a few days ago. The move to sign Matt Corral today, just minutes ago, or at this point, maybe a little less than an hour ago. We'll talk about that as well. And yeah, Buster on the Red Sox. Red Sox swept away by the Astros. Luckily, they are off for the day. We don't have to hear their actual game today, but we can still talk all about them. So again, 802-585-3026. That is your text line number. Danny, Lego.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And here we go.
The opening thoughts on the Brady Farkas Show are brought to you by Sticks and Stuff and Swanton Lumber, Vermont's most complete locally owned home center with locations in Enosburg, Derby, Middlesex, St. Albans, at Rouse's Point, New York as well, and at Swanton Lumber. They're online at sticksandstuff.com. Okay, 2.5 weeks ago, I buried the Boston Red Sox when they got swept at home by the Toronto Blue Jays. Then they won a couple of games, and I said, okay, maybe, just maybe there's a chance. I should have stuck with my instincts because, again, after getting swept at home, the Boston Red Sox are dead. The season is over. The Red Sox are 69-65. They are not an awful team, but they are not a good enough team to get to the playoffs. They've lost 7 of 10. They have lost 4 straight. They have fallen to 6.5 back of the third and final wild card spot. And I don't believe now that they're going to have any chance to try to make up any ground in any reasonable way that gets you to the playoffs. They're done playing Seattle, who they're chasing. They're done playing Houston, who they're chasing. They do have to play Texas again. They do play Toronto again, but they're too far back at this point and can't directly impact their standing enough. Their season is over. That said, there are still things to watch. We still air the games. I still want you to watch. I still want you to listen. I still want you to support our Red Sox coverage. I'm going to continue to talk about them. But when it comes to playoff baseball, the Red Sox will not be playing it. When it comes to playing in October, the Red Sox won't, and we will be focusing on the offseason very, very soon. I mean, that's just where we're at right now. The Red Sox, I declared them dead after getting swept by Toronto. I then stupidly and foolishly kind of backslid into just maybe. No, they are done. They're going to have some winnable games coming up. They're going to play the Royals this weekend. They very well might take the series, and it very well likely is not going to matter one bit because they just can't do enough directly to impact their standing. And I can't count on Seattle or Houston or Texas or Toronto and all the teams you need to lose. I cannot count on them losing enough to get the Red Sox to the playoffs. We have 1 month of baseball left. The Red Sox are done, right? We've got, let's see, 69 and 65 is what? That is all. We've played 134 games. We've got 28 games left. And you want the Red Sox to make up 6.5? It's not happening. It's over. There are reasons to watch. There are still reasons and things to pick apart and get excited about. But the playoffs are not one of them. And I ask you this question. I'm going to ask this question of Buster Olney. 802-585-3026. In one word, describe the Boston Red Sox season for me. 802-585-3026. Your Red Sox season in a one-word nutshell, what is it? I've been thinking a lot about this. I have my word. Danny, do you have your word?
What are the kids saying? Mid?
Okay, mid. So that is that your kid's word for average?
Yeah, just like the
Okay.
Yankees. Very mid.
So you've got no. The Yankees are bad. There's a difference. Okay, the Yankees are bad. So you've got the Red Sox as mid, aka average. That's what you're going with?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought about average. I thought about underachieving. I thought about disappointing. All of these words came to me, but my one word is frustrating. That's the Red Sox season in 2023 to me in one word. Frustrating. Okay. I thought about underachieving, but they're not underachieving. Really, at the end of the day, the Red Sox are going to be exactly where we thought they were. And when you are what I think you are, you're not underachieving. You're hitting the mark. It's that simple. The Red Sox are exactly what I thought they would be. And over the course of a 6-month season, you go high and you go low, and the team gets hot and the team gets cold. And I will come in here on a Monday or on a Thursday or a Friday or whatever and say the Red Sox are awful, or the Red Sox got a chance to sneak in and do some damage in October. But ultimately, once we get back and we step back from the day-to-day version of the show, the Red Sox, when we look back with a 6-month-long lens, are going to be exactly what I thought they were. I told you all along the Red Sox were between a 78 and an 84 win team. I thought they were going to finish 4th or 5th in the AL East. I didn't think they were going to make the playoffs, but I thought they would be kind of in the conversation for a lot of the year. That's exactly where they're going to be, right? That's exactly where they're going to be. The Red Sox are 69 and 65. 69 and 65. If they go, let's just say over those 28 games, if they go 14 and 14, they're going to finish 83 and 79, which is right in the middle of my 78 to 84 win projection. Okay. If they go a little bit less than that, they're going to finish closer to 78. One better than that, they're going to finish with 84 wins, but they're going to end up exactly where I thought they were. And they are going to finish 4th or 5th in the division. Right now, they're pretty locked into 4th, but they could finish 5th if they get real cold and the Yankees end up getting real hot. But they're going to be exactly where we thought they were. So to me, it's frustrating, right? They're not underachieving because they're exactly what I thought. They're not necessarily disappointing because they're exactly what I thought. They're just frustrating. And they're frustrating for a bunch of different reasons. They're frustrating because of the way they were built. And they're frustrating because we never got to ultimately see the very best version of this team. Let me make two very separate points here, okay? And don't chew my head off when I say the first. One, Chaim Bloom built a team that was good enough to compete. Chaim Bloom has built a team that was good enough to compete. That's number one. The number two part is we never got to see that version of the team because Chaim Bloom built a flawed roster, and therefore the flawed roster is what's ultimately going to do them in. Okay, let me back check here. The Red Sox built a good bullpen, right? Getting Kenley Jansen and getting Chris Martin, those were good moves. The bullpen this year was a lot better than it's been. If the Red Sox got the best version of their team, okay, the best version, they would have had that bullpen. They would have had a healthy Chris Sale for the whole year. They would have had a healthy James Paxton. Brian Bayo would have been good. Pivetta would have done his thing. Then they would have gotten Casas to be good. They would have gotten this from Duran. Yoshida would have been good. And they would have had a healthy Trevor Story. If If all of that happened, Red Sox had a pretty good team. If all of that happened, the Red Sox very well possibly might be going to the playoffs. The problem is, so the players that the Red Sox had are talented players. They are players that are good enough to get to the playoffs. The problem is, and the biggest frustration of me is, we never really got to see that on display because you can't build a team with if. You can't. Okay, we called it back in February and back in March. The Red Sox are built on a house of cards, and a house of cards could stand up and be beautiful for a long time, or a house of cards can come crashing down, and the Red Sox at various points this year came crashing down. And that is ultimately a Chaim Bloom doing, and that is a frustration. If I could see it from here, from the WDEV studios, how could the Red Sox not see it? You could not build this team on such a shaky foundation. Chris Sale was a shaky foundation. He's going to end up having missed half the year. James Paxton was a shaky foundation. He ends up not pitching until, middle, end of May, maybe a little earlier than that. But he pitches like a guy who is good at times, average at times, and unavailable at times. Okay, you built your foundation on those two. You also built your foundation on Corey Kluber, who is 37 years old, who we said you couldn't count on.
And then ultimately, when you build your rotation on that, you end up with injuries, which the Red Sox did. You end up with poor performance, and you end up having to tap into your depth to the point where now Cutter Crawford becomes a regular part of the rotation, where now you're leaning on 23-year-old Brian Bayo in a way that you shouldn't have to. So if all went well, Red Sox had a good team. If almost never goes well. And that's the problem. And that's my frustration. If I could see it, why couldn't Chaim Bloom see it? Why couldn't John Henry see it? Why didn't John Henry care enough to see it? It's unfortunate, right? The Red Sox let Xander Bogaerts go. They thought they had a plan for Trevor Story to be the guy. Trevor Story wasn't there most of the year. If. Didn't happen. That's my frustration. That, to me, is why the Red Sox are so vexing this year, because you could see the players themselves, the back of their baseball cards yielded a potentially good team. It also yielded a potentially very, very shaky team, and that's what we got. And that, to me, was always possible, and it was always likely. And as a result, the season is where we're at. The Red Sox are not a terrible team. They are going to finish right around 500. They're going to finish a lot better than a lot of other teams in the American League. They will have made it interesting for us for 5+ months of 6. And I can appreciate that. But ultimately, they're going to end in 4th or 5th place, 78 to 84 wins, exactly like we thought they would. And that, to me, is very, very frustrating. 802-585-3026. Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line is open. You can get in your one word for the Red Sox. Glenn in Brookfield says, my one word for them is agonizing. And another texter says, you are what your record is. I hate to admit it, but you were right. Amen. I like being right, but in this situation, I don't like it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, in this business, I take pride in getting some things right, because you get more wrong than you do right. But this is not the kind of thing I like to be wrong about. Or not the kind of thing I like to be right about, excuse me. Right? If I say a team I think is going to be average or bad, I would love for them to prove me wrong. The Red Sox have proven me right. We're going to ask Buster Olney his one word for the Red Sox season. He's going to be with us next on the Brady Farkas Show on DEV. The WDEV studio is sponsored by Sticks and Stuff and Swanton Lumber, Vermont's largest independent home center, powered by Marvin Doors and Windows. Go to sticksandstuff.com for store locations and hours.
It's time to get out. It's the 10 best days of summer, the Champlain Valley Fair. Experience Vermont's largest annual event. We've been celebrating for over 100 years. The Champlain Valley Fair is the exclamation point of summer. With historic agricultural competitions and animal exhibits, thrills on the midway, the tastes and smells of over 60 food vendors, and big-name concerts in the grandstand. From the Mackenzie Racing Pigs to the Flying Cortez, there's entertainment everywhere. Check out performances by the ventriloquist and comedy balloon artists. Feast your eyes on the giant sand sculpture and get your crunch on at the Demolition Derby. Come to the 2023 Champlain Valley Fair, presented by North Country Federal Credit Union, August 25th through September 3rd. Purchase tickets anytime and learn about daily specials on our app.
It's the 10 best days of summer, Champlain Valley Fair.
Visit us at ChamplainValleyFair.org.
The Capital City concert season opens with a flood relief concert by renowned pianist Jeffrey Chappell, one of the most beloved performers in the series' history. Friday night, September 8th at the Barry Opera House. All ticket proceeds to benefit flood victims. Let's fill the Opera House and share the healing power of music and raise much-needed funds. Tickets start at just $5. Go to capitalcityconcerts.org.
Make your opinion heard by texting onto the Brady Farkas Show at 802-585-3026.
All the insight into everything going on in baseball. It's time for our weekly conversation with ESPN baseball insider and Vermont native, Buster Olney.
I'm just about ready to bet the family farm in Vermont.
On the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show, right here on WDEV on this Thursday, WDEV AM and FM, WDEVradio.com. Joining me now, as he does every Thursday at this time, ESPN MLB insider Buster Olney. Buster, how are you?
I'm doing okay. What's going on with you, Brady?
Well, appreciate you being with us as always. I've been a weary traveler the last couple of days. I felt like you. I was at the Mets game on Tuesday. I was at the U.S. Open yesterday. I want to talk with you a little bit about my time at Citi Field, but let's first get to the Red Sox. I just asked the listeners this question. I'm going to ask you. With me declaring the Red Sox dead, you may not feel that way, but I'm declaring the Red Sox dead. One word to describe this Red Sox season. How would you sum it up?
Maddening.
Why do you say that?
Maddening would be the word. Because
okay, why?
I feel like that there's potential for them to do more. And they are absolutely, it feels like just locked in this cycle of mediocrity. And it's maddening knowing that the franchise really hasn't gotten out of that mud bog.
My word was frustrating and very similar to maddening. And I kind of chose it because I can see the makings of a good baseball team with the Red Sox, right? Like if everything went well, the Red Sox could be a pretty good team, I feel like. But you know better than I do. If almost never happens. And we saw the house of cards the Red Sox were built on just fall apart too many times, relying on Chris Sale, relying on 37-year-old Corey Kluber earlier in the season. That whittled away at their bullpen depth because they had to move guys into the rotation, and then the bullpen faltered at times. And, well, they let Bogarts go, but we think Story's the guy, and, oh, wait, now he's out for the first 5 months of the season. The Red Sox were built very flimsily, and it came crashing down upon them.
And I just think that when you think about, what could have been, and I'm not saying anything that anyone hasn't said a million times over the last year, boy, if they had Mookie Betts and if they had, handled the negotiations with a young Rafael Devers differently, could they have gotten in a more of a team-friendly deal like we're seeing with the Atlanta Braves with their players? It's been a head-scratcher. I got to say, a lot of the time, a lot of the moves that they made in recent years.
I've kind of moved from a staunch Chaim Bloom defender to kind of a Chaim Bloom rationalizer. I can see what he's doing. I do agree with a lot of it. I do not agree with all of it. But at this point, do you think Chaim Bloom is the guy to run the Red Sox?
Boy, my question would be going forward is, when will the Red Sox get back to conducting their business with a sense of urgency about winning right now? I really feel like that starting when in 2003, year after year after year, the standard was for them to, not making the postseason seemed to be something that was unacceptable for the ownership. And I can't put it on Heim because Heim, works for other people. But my question is that still true? Is it still unacceptable? Do they, is there going to be a dramatic response if the team doesn't make the postseason? I don't feel that way right now. It doesn't feel like, that there's nearly the same sense of, a push to make sure that you get into the postseason in a way that there used to be. And I, just time after time after time, when, players are available or moves need to be made, or you're at the trade deadline and, there's starting pitchers available and the Red Sox don't land a guy. They don't land a couple of guys. It just makes you scratch your head. It's very different than what we grew accustomed to over the last 20 years.
Part of the reason the Red Sox got in the mode that you're talking about of being hyper-aggressive is because they were always being spurred on by the Yankees, right? The Yankees had won all those World Series at the back end of the 90s, early in the 2000s, had knocked the Red Sox out in 2003, and the Red Sox were spurred on by what the Yankees are doing. As these same questions kind of materialize about the Yankees, is this kind of pushing the Red Sox into this sense of, it being okay to be less urgent because the Yankees are no longer pushing them?
No, I think what has really altered the equation for some teams are the success of these small market clubs, most notably the Tampa Bay Rays, to a lesser degree the Cleveland Guardians, because I feel like front offices feel like, we can create a team that can find ways to win on the cheap. We can, we can do what the Rays did in terms of finding players. The Giants, I think, have fallen into the same trap where they feel like, we can put together a guy who's really good, against left-handed pitching, guy who can hit right-handed pitching. We can put them together, and there's a really good major league player. But I think what's happened is that, that those teams that have fallen into that have gone into a cycle of mediocrity. I think the Rays are really good, especially good at doing that. And, the teams that have tried to follow them, and the Red Sox and Giants to be the best examples of that, they're just not able to do it. But here's the part that, and I don't know the answer to this because I'm not in the meetings when they talk about this, at the end of the year, because they managed to tamp down their payroll in San Francisco and they're not spending as much with the Red Sox, to keep up with some of the other high spenders in the sport. Are they happy feeling like, well, at the end of the year, maybe we didn't have as much baseball success, but you know what, we're running a better bottom line than we would have if we had spent a lot more money? Are they happy with that? I don't know the answer.
Buster Olney of ESPN with us here on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. The Angels made significant news this week when they put a bunch of players, really good players, on waivers and what appeared to be a cost-saving move for them. Now, ultimately, those players were claimed on waivers today, 3 of which went to the Guardians, 2 of which went to the Reds. Both of those teams were able to claim before the Red Sox. It would have been really interesting. Do you think the Red Sox put in claims on these guys and just were beaten out, or do you think they sat out another opportunity to amass talent?
Yeah, and we'll never know the answer to that unless Heim comes out and speaks openly about the process. Rules for teams to speak openly labor process. You'd be subject to discipline. My guess is that yes, because the Matt Moores, Reynaldo Lopez, the 2 relievers, those guys were so incredibly cheap. Lucas Giolito, who's an accomplished starting pitcher, would have cost more, close to $1.8 million. But it certainly would have been something the Red Sox could have done. But to your point, those 3 pitchers were claimed by the Guardians. Hunter Renfroe and Harrison Bader were claimed by the Cincinnati Reds. So the Red Sox never had a chance. I was fascinated by that question, whether or not the Red Sox would, put in the claims. The fact that the Cincinnati Reds did it, being the small market team that they are, tells you that it was something that all teams should have considered. It would have been fun to see if the Red Sox grabbed those guys because they certainly could use the pitching.
Buster, I know the waiver rules changed in the last couple of years. Did it used to be that you could only claim 1 player at a time and you only got 1 claim and then everyone else went on down the list. I was surprised to see that the Guardians could claim 3 guys.
No, that part didn't change. I think, what the part that was exposed here by this whole process was the fact that we've never seen a team get to the end of August and basically say, you know what, it's not going well for us, so we're going to flip the board game. We're unhappy about the way this has played out for our team, and all we're going to do is try to save money and essentially, tank the rest of the season. That's what the Angels did. And I do hope that Major League Baseball moving forward does, fill in the loophole that is in the rules to allow teams to do this. This was, I think, the sort of embarrassment they want to avoid going forward. You don't want to have this become a copycat situation where we get to the end of August and, 10, 12 teams that aren't contending decide, you know what, we're just going to dump salary, free agents who we're not going to try to keep or to give qualifying offers to. We're just going to throw them out so we can save a little bit of money, because that's what the Angels did.
Yeah, certainly a frustration, I'm sure, for Major League Baseball on the front that you're talking about here. Buster, I want to ask you, we spent so much of the year talking about how good the AL East is. Is the AL West actually the best division in baseball? I know they've got the A's in it, but when I look at Seattle, Texas, and Houston, is that a better top 3 than what the AL East has?
I think with the injuries that the Rays have had and, Wander Franco, the discipline, that's a big hit for that organization. I think it takes them down a notch for sure. The Toronto Blue Jays, the injury to Bo Bichette takes them down a notch. The best race in baseball the rest of the way is the American League West. And I do think, given the fact that the Astros have had so much experience in the postseason, they're the defending champions, won the World Series last year, and your Seattle Mariners are on a roll and apparently have, now moved into that upper realm of teams in the American League. Yeah. I can't argue with your point there, because I do feel like between the Yankees and the Red Sox, the Blue Jays injuries, the Rays stuff, that the division is taking a hit this year.
Buster, I had a blast in New York, as I said, Tuesday night, Wednesday, yesterday, Mets game Tuesday against the Rangers. Mets lost 2-1, and then yesterday at the U.S. Open. I've been to Citi Field before. This is my second time being there, but I really do enjoy Citi Field. I think it's a beautiful ballpark with great vantage points. I'm kind of curious. I know you don't get to watch games as a fan very often, but where are your favorite stadiums to go to?
Oh, without a doubt, San Francisco, and we just had them on Sunday Night Baseball last weekend. That is a beautiful place to go and sit and watch a game. San Diego, the atmosphere. A great time. I've always thought of what used to be known as Safeco Field in Seattle, the Mariners' home. That, to me, has always been one of my favorite places to go and watch games. I think it's a beautiful venue, and, I always like going back. It has such a unique park and is such a storied history. That would be in my top 5 as well.
Buster, when is the last time you watched a game as a fan? Are you someone that likes to go to games when you're not working, or when you're not working and you're not near baseball?
No, on Saturdays, I typically will go to the game and sit, because I'll fly into a city the day before Sunday Night Baseball, spend a day gathering information. Then during the game, I like to go and find seats and watch a game. I actually did that went to Fenway I can't remember the last time we had a Sunday. Oh, it was the last week in July. We had the Cardinals, or not the Cardinals, but the Mets. There was the Mets and the Red Sox.
Yes.
And got to sit in the game with my partner Liz, and we just had the greatest time sitting along the third base line.
Buster Olney, ESPN MLB Insider, with us every single Thursday. Buster, much appreciated as always. We'll catch up in 7 days. Thank you.
All right, Brady. I'll talk to you later.
All right, there goes Buster Olney, our ESPN MLB Insider. So much to digest what Buster had to say. We will, I'm thinking about when he asked, how interested are the Red Sox in winning? That's a question that Buster Olney is asking. How interested are the Red Sox in winning? And are they more concerned with the bottom line than... I'm going to stew on that We're going to come back. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to tell you about my trip to the U.S. Open, all of that coming in the 6 o'clock hour. We got CBS News Update. That's coming up next here on Vermont's news station, WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. You're listening to The Brady Farkas Show.
This is WDEV, Vermont's news station, owned and operated by the Radio Vermont Group. From the top of Sugarbush at 96.1 FM, WDEV Warren and Waitsfield. In Barrie at 96.5. In Montpelier at 98.3. Along with our founding station, AM 550 WDEV Waterbury, Montpelier. Streaming at WDEVradio.com. 92 years of serving Vermont. The friendly pioneer, WDEV.
This is CBS News on the Hour, presented by Indeed.com.
I'm Monica Ricks in New York. Republican leader Mitch McConnell's been cleared for work after freezing up again. Here's CBS's Scott McFarland.
Congress's in-house doctor in a letter writes that he has consulted with Mitch McConnell and conferred with McConnell's neurology team and cleared the 81-year-old Republican leader to resume his schedule. The doctor wrote, occasional lightheadedness is not uncommon in concussion recovery. McConnell was hospitalized with a severe concussion in March after a fall in D.C.
Florida started cleaning up after a hard hit from Hurricane Idalia. Reporter Jason Allen is in Keaton Beach.
Phil and Rhonda Horn returned to their home of 30 years, assuming everything would be gone. And we're surprised it wasn't.
We're just so happy to be here. Thank the good Lord. That's what we keep saying.
Idalia also cut a path through Georgia, then weakened to a tropical storm before reaching the Carolinas.
And it could be a while before we know exact damage estimates. We know flooding is expected to get worse in Georgia and the Carolinas this weekend. Meantime, Oprah and The Rock are donating $10 million to help people affected by wildfires in Hawaii.
We have created the People's Fund of Maui that will put money directly in the hands of the people who need it right now.
People will get $1,200 a month, the wildfires displacing thousands. Two former far-right leaders are headed to prison now for attacking the Capitol on January 6th.
As long as the sentences are, they're much shorter than federal prosecutors had asked for. They wanted Zachary Real to serve 30 years. He got 15. Joseph Biggs got 17. Prosecutors had asked for a 33-year sentence for him. The two men were convicted by federal juries of seditious conspiracy for taking part in the attack, which they thought would stop Congress from certifying the election of Joe Biden. Christopher Cruz, CBS News, Washington.
X, formerly known as Twitter, plans to start collecting biometric data on users when its new policy plan takes effect next month. CBS News tech contributor Ian Schur explains it.
It's likely that a lot of these features are going to be used for stuff like passwordless login, which is a popular growing trend on the internet, where your phone's fingerprint sensor or facial recognition features are used to log into websites instead of having to memorize or keep a list of passwords.
If you plan on grilling or hosting an outdoor party this weekend in New York, the NYPD could show up uninvited. Police will be piloting unmanned drones over large gatherings to beef up security over Labor Day, but critics are already calling it a violation of privacy. This is CBS News.
When you think of hiring, think of Indeed. Their end-to-end hiring system helps you attract, interview, and hire candidates all in the same place. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
After a big dinner, my nighttime heartburn would keep me up. I'd be taking antacid after antacid all night long. But then I tried Prilosec OTC. Just one pill a day blocks my frequent heartburn for a full 24 hours, giving me one-and-done heartburn relief. Without heartburn keeping me up, I can have a restful night's sleep.
Prilosec OTC. One pill a day, 24 hours, zero heartburn.
It's possible while taking Prilosec OTC. Use as directed for 14 days to treat frequent heartburn, not for immediate relief.
I'm Tamron Hall. Eggs are a staple in our diet, and there's only one egg with more delicious, farm-fresh taste plus superior nutrition. Eggland's Best, with more vitamins, including 6 times more vitamin D and 10 times more vitamin E, plus 25% less saturated fat than ordinary eggs. Available in so many delicious varieties: classic, cage-free, and organic. Eggland's Best. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
Scammers will be busy this holiday weekend. Aaron Cockrell with cybersecurity firm Lookout says people working remotely the Friday before Labor Day weekend open up a world of opportunities for attackers looking to steal sensitive information like login credentials and credit card numbers.
Because they're working from home and because they're potentially using an unmanaged device.
Cockrell says there are often warning signs the message you received is not legit.
Messages from unknown devices or unknown senders, messages that don't look like they're properly formed from a language or grammar perspective, although bad actors are increasingly using generative AI to get around that problem.
He says their research finds the majority of the attacks are directed towards credential theft to make an easy buck. Jennifer Kuiper, CBS News. A car driving with a bull in it, a full bull, was pulled over in Norfolk, Nebraska. Half of the windshield and roof removed to make room for it, but the driver says he was on his way to a parade. Monica Ricks, CBS News.
The Brady Farkas Show now has an interactive text line, so reach out now at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show, right here on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. I want to thank Buster Olney for stopping by with us live here today. The full interview will be available shortly after the show on our podcast channel on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and WDEVradio.com. I want to tell you all about my trip to the U.S. Open here momentarily, but I want to react to a couple things that Buster had to say. And I just can't get my head around this idea. I'm not saying Buster's wrong. I've kind of blown my mind at thinking about that. This is what Buster thinks. Buster truly wonders how invested the Red Sox are in winning. And that to me is an embarrassing question that needs to be asked. Because, and look, I see this about my Mariners on social media, but the fact that it's being asked about the Red Sox is an embarrassment. Okay. Buster's truly wondering if at the end of the year, the Red Sox look at their books and say, hey, we didn't win, but we ran a better and more efficient business. Buster's truly wondering if that's the case. Is the Red Sox ownership group happy? That's an embarrassment. Okay, I understand that sports are a business. I understand that teams are a business. And I get how business works, right? You can't just willy-nilly throw money at everything. You do have to be discernible in some spending. You do have to be smart in some spending. You can't spend on everything that you may want. But at the same time, you can't only own a sports team for the sake of the bottom line. You can't, and especially in this market, and especially when you are the Boston Red Sox, and especially when you haven't now really been a player for 5 years, right? This isn't, in 2020, I gave the Red Sox kind of a pass, right? COVID season, 60 games, trade Mookie, I got it. And the fact that the team went 24-36 that year, I kind of just excused it. No big deal, it's fluky. But then in 2021, they got to the ALCS, but again, they do it kind of on the cheap. And then in 2022, it's on the cheap again. And I can see the vision. I understand it. But for Buster to sit here and say, I wonder if they're invested in winning, that is an embarrassment, and that has to change. I don't know. I don't know if Chaim Bloom is the guy anymore. Okay? I don't know. And it's not fair, as Buster said, to pin it all on Chaim Bloom, because Chaim Bloom works for people, and the people who Chaim Bloom works for ultimately have the money, right? They ultimately have the wallet. So I don't know if it's a Chaim thing or if it's truly a John Henry and Sam Kennedy thing, but I don't know if this structure is working right now for the Red Sox. You have to be a player when you have chances to get better, and the Red Sox haven't been that player. Danny, I found this audio from Friday the other day, right? This is from days ago. Rob Bradford of WEEI in Boston was kind of talking about what Buster was talking about. Let me hear what Bradfo said several days ago.
Either you win or you lose. You can say that you're doing it this way. That's fine. But at the end of the day, I don't want to hear about 2026. I want to hear about, like, are you going to be good in right here when you have the opportunity to be good, or aren't you?
The Red Sox have been so focused on the future, so focused on the future, so focused on building the future. They have forgotten about the now. And you can't be a team that forgets about the now. Okay, let's kind of run through some stuff here. Okay, teams that have fully rebuilt, and I'm talking about truly gutted their rosters, okay, truly gutted them, they generally have taken 2 to 3 year rebuilds before they've kind of shown some aggression and put it back together again. Okay, I use my Mariners. I'm sorry to do it again, but I know it the best. Mariners in 2019 gutted the roster, right? They traded away everybody. In 2020, they played with some of the kids that they got in 2019. Or was it 2018? Excuse me. 2018, they gutted the roster. Okay, 2018. 2019, they were terrible, right? Absolutely awful. 2020, they're like 28 and 32 in the COVID year. Still under 500. Probably would have finished worse than that in a regular season. 2021, they won 90 games. 90. 2022, they win 90 games. They get to the playoffs. So it took them 2.5 years, 3 years, including the COVID season, to kind of go from dumpster fire to playoff contender. The Toronto Blue Jays were in back-to-back ALCSs, I believe. Then they reset their roster. It took them like 3 years to get really interesting again and get really good. They made the playoffs in the COVID year. They just missed it in 21. They made it in 22. Okay, you look at these teams, the White Sox, when they traded Chris Sale and Adam Eaton, et cetera, they gutted their roster. It took them 2 or 3 years to get back to the playoffs. Now, ultimately, they've backslid again, but they made the playoffs 2 consecutive years. The Red Sox, as they've reset the roster and as they've tried to do things on the cheap, they haven't really been a player in 5 years. They made the ALCS kind of one fluky COVID season. You know, we were still in the COVID rules in 2021. They made the ALCS that year, and I give them credit for it. But ultimately, the way of building the roster has worked once and has not worked 3 other times. The Red Sox have passed on chances to get better. They haven't really spent at the top of the free agent market. They did spend on Story, but I think they consider him a bargain. They haven't been making big moves at the trade deadline. They've just focused on the future, on kicking on the can down on the road. And as teams have I've just given you multiple teams that focus on the future, that totally reset. And it took them 2 or 3 years. Well, when is the Red Sox now going to come? Because this is frustrating to watch, and it is frustrating to live, and it is frustrating to be a part of. Let me make it clear again. I've said this a million times, and Buster echoed it. I believe the best way to build a baseball team is internally. I believe that Chaim Bloom has done a generally good job at setting the Red Sox up for future success. But it can't only be about future success. It can't only be about cost-saving measures. It can't only be about diamonds in the rough. You have to, at some point, pull the trigger, and you've got to go for it. I mentioned my Mariners and all the building through the farm system they did. Still, when it came time, they signed Robbie Ray, the reigning Cy Young winner. 5-year deal. When it came time last year to go in for the playoffs, they pushed and they traded a lot of their farm system to go get Luis Castillo. This is what the teams are supposed to do, and it's what the Red Sox aren't doing. They're building the farm system. They're hoarding the prospects. They're building the internal pipeline, and I believe in that, but they've got to cash in the ticket at some point. And either Chaim Bloom doesn't want to cash in the ticket or his bosses won't let him, but either way, something isn't working. Something isn't working. When Buster Olney sits here and says, I really wonder if they're happy with their bottom line at the end of the year than their place in the standings, that is a problem. That is absolutely a problem. And here we are. The Red Sox are going to be missing the playoffs again. And it's going to be for the Chaim Bloom got here in 20. So it's going to be for the third time in 4 years. It's going to be for the third time in 4 years. And here's the other kind of game about all this is that as Chaim Bloom and the team builds the prospect capital, well, eventually you build the prospect capital and some guys are ready and then other guys leave, right? Like they're going to build the prospects up and the guys are going to get to the majors and then it's going to be time for Verdugo to be gone. And now you're going to lose a major league player and the team is not really going to be able to move forward. Like, yeah, they'll have Duran and yeah, they'll have Ceddanne Rafaela and you're excited about them, but they're going to be missing an anchor out there because they're going to move on from Verdugo. I told you weeks ago they were going to trade Verdugo. I told you I would have traded Verdugo. Rob Bradford said they'll trade Verdugo. Buster says he thinks they'll trade Verdugo. Like, you're going to have prospects come up and materialize and matriculate, but you're going to be losing out on major leaguers as well. And they very well may lose Paxton in the offseason. And the rotation's going to have another question. They're going to lose Sale, and they're going to have another question there. And I don't know how they're going to fill it. They've got to be willing to spend or trade. They've got to. You can draft, develop all you want. You've got to be willing to pull the trigger at some point, and the Red Sox haven't been willing to do that. And I know what Buster says. He says the Yankees don't factor into what the Red Sox do. I might disagree with that. I haven't given it a ton of thought, but I might disagree with it. Because 2003, right, like the Red Sox were being pushed by the Yankees. Yankees win the title in 96 and 98 and 99 and 2000. And the Red Sox at the same time simultaneously have the weight of the curse on their shoulders. And then there's 03, and the Red Sox are, fall short again. And then the Red Sox said, you know what? Okay, we've been close. We're all in. The Yankees are the evil empire. We're going to take down them. We're going to pass them. And the Red Sox got really aggressive. From 2000 on, the Red Sox got really aggressive. And now I think because the Yankees have also fallen out of relevance to some degree, the Red Sox think, okay, if they could be mediocre, we could be mediocre. If they're not going to push, we don't need to push. Because so often, the Red Sox are not measured by how they do against the rest of the league. They're measured by how they do against the Yankees. And if the Yankees are going to finish in third place or fourth place, then it's okay for the Red Sox to operate under the same manner. I look at the Yankees the last several years, and they've signed Garrett Cole to a big deal, and they've taken on Josh Donaldson. But that's about it. They haven't gone way out of the purse strings. And I think the Red Sox feel like if they're not doing it, we don't have to do it. And that's a problem. That's a problem. 802-585-3026. That is the text line. All right. Let me switch gears. Let me tell you about my last couple of days, because it's been a fun but exhausting last couple of days. So I knew for months that we were going to be off on Wednesday, right? We were going to be off yesterday because we're going to have Red Sox baseball against the Astros. So my dad's birthday was in June. My dad's always wanted to go to a Grand Slam tennis tournament, never has, right? He's been to the Wimbledon grounds, but he's never been to a Grand Slam tennis tournament. So my brother and I and my mom, we got him U.S. Open tickets for this year. And I knew that yesterday we were going to be off, so it was going to be a chance where I could miss a day of work, and it wasn't going to put anyone out at the station. It wasn't going to penalize me financially or anything like that. So I said, okay, we will go. We will watch the game watch the matches on Wednesday, August 30th. I had to take off Tuesday so I could get to New York. Tuesday night, we get in a little bit late. We go watch the Mets game. They're taking on the Rangers. Wednesday, we watch the match. It was exhausting, but it was a great 2 days. And I don't like New York City. I lived in New York for a lot of my life. I don't like New York City. I don't like going to New York City. I don't like going to Long Island. I don't like being in the city. I don't like the travel of it all. It's just really not for me. But I had a blast. So Tuesday night, we stay in Queens, and we take the train in. I get all the way to Albany, right? We take the train in to New York City. We get to New York City at, 4 o'clock or so. My buddy is an NYPD cop, one of my best friends from high school. I meet up with him in the train station. He comes up. He actually works a block up the street. Awesome to see him. So we hang out. We hang out in the train station for like 25 minutes or so while he's got to go back to work. So we talk. So his trip starts off great. Navigate the Long Island Railroad. Get into Jamaica, Queens. Then we end up, we get some food. Unbelievable tapas place. Like, I'm not really into shareable small appetizers. Like, I'm like, give me a big pile of steak and let me go to town. But we get a small plated meal, tapas, delicious. Then we take an Uber out to Citi Field. We get dropped off right in center field at the Met game. Awesome. Mets lose 2-1 to the Rangers. Good game. Get back on the Uber. Go back to the hotel. Everyone ends up passing out early, like 10:30. Like, I'm usually like in bed at like 1:15. I'm asleep by like no later than 11 on Tuesday. But, watched the Mets game, had great seats. Game was kind of boring because no one could score. And the Mets are bad, so it was pretty lifeless. But ultimately, I haven't seen a baseball game since 2000. I've seen now 2 baseball games in like the last 4 years. So it was good for me to just be at a game again. Yesterday, U.S. Open Day, man, that was crazy. And it was fun. It was so much fun. Let me kind of explain how the day worked. Let me explain kind of what the lay of the land was. We get up early in the morning, hotel breakfast, etc. Our passes, what we have are called grandstand, or what we have are called grounds passes. And grounds passes mean that you can walk anywhere, you can watch matches anywhere on the ground. So I want to say there's like 20 courts at the U.S. Open. A bunch of them are outer courts that really have very little room for fans. They're just kind of benches like you'd see at like a high school football game, even less than that. So there's like a bunch of courts that are like that. Then you've got 4 pretty big courts. Court 17, which can hold a lot of people, the grandstand court, and then the 2 giant ones, Louis Armstrong Court and Arthur Ashe Court. Arthur Ashe is where like they play the final. And, that's where Novak Djokovic plays, etc. So the grounds pass gets us into all of the outer courts, gets us into court 17, the big court, gets us into the grandstand court, another pretty big court, and then gets us into Louis Armstrong Stadium. So we could go to all of the grounds except for Arthur Ashe, right? I couldn't go into that one. That was the only one we couldn't go in. So we get there and we take the Uber again to Citi Field. Citi Field is right next door to the U.S. Open complex. So we take the Uber to Citi Field. We walk 10 minutes or so across the parking lot, get to the U.S. Open. We're there. It had poured all morning. Ended up stopping raining as soon as we got out of the Uber, so we weren't wet at all for the walk, so that was great. So we get into the U.S. Open grounds, and we're like, okay, we got all these courts. What do we want to do? We're looking at a program, who's playing where do we want to go? So we start off, we go over to Court 8. And in Court 8, it's just, there's 8, 9, and 10. They're all next to each other. And there's 3 men's doubles matches going on. And literally, we are on the rail. We are in the first row of these little benches on the rail. You can hear the players talking to each other. I've never seen a sporting event, a professional sporting event this close. Like, even if you were in the first row at a baseball game, you're still 65 feet away from home plate, 100 feet away from home plate. We were literally like, I could reach out and touch the guys when they went over to get water. So we're watching the doubles matches, and it's pretty amazing. I will say men's doubles was not that entertaining because the game was so predicated on the serve that there wasn't a lot of action, right? It was like ace, 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 swing and a miss hit. Like the points were over very, very quickly. So we hang out, we watch all 3 of those matches for a little bit. We're kind of bopping around each of the 3 courts. And then we're like, hey, let's go try one of the bigger ones. And even though our passes can get us into the bigger stadiums, we're like, well, it's kind of first come, first serve seating. So I don't know if we're going to get a seat. So we walk into the grandstand and we walk around it. We get to the top level in the shade, couple seats, and we posted up for a set and a half watching the kid from Switzerland and Stefanos Tsitsipas. Tsitsipas is the 7th ranked player in this tournament, one of the top men's players in the world. And we watched all of set 2, a lot of set 3, and then left. And Tsitsipas ends up losing that match. It's one of the biggest upsets of the tournament. We didn't say for the end of that because we bopped around to other places. But we got to see this number 7 player in the world. And we watched it for a set and a half in the shade, comfortable seating, and it was a great environment. Then we go back down, and my brother used to work at ESPN. ESPN's covering the game, so he meets up, covering the matches, So he meets up with a friend, and they're hanging out. So while they're hanging out kind of on the grounds, my dad and I are messing around more. We go back to the doubles court, and we watch women's doubles. And this one is far more interesting in that the serves are not as hard, but therefore the play is not all dictated by the serve. Like the balls are put in play. The serve is returned. There's volleys. There's drop shots. There's smashes. It was great tennis to watch, and I love watching major tennis. Right? You can't find me watching the New Zealand Classic or the Cincinnati Open. I have no interest in that stuff. But if it's major tennis, I am all in on it. So we're watching this, and it's just beautiful tennis to watch. Like, good tennis is art to me. And we're watching this. And on the one court, on one of the women's courts, is Tatiana Maria. This is a name you may know, you may not. She got to Wimbledon singles semifinals just 2 years ago. She's 36 years old. 36 years old, mother of 2, I think. She got to singles Wimbledon semis 2 years ago, and now she's on our court doubles. I'm close enough to high-five her if I wanted to. So we're watching that. It was awesome. Then there's a singles match with a player from Spain, a player from China. We're watching that. That was fascinating to see that singles match up close. And then my dad and I get an idea. Go, hey, my mom texted me. She goes, it's too bad because she didn't go. She's watching at home. She goes, it's too bad your passes don't allow you into Arthur Ashe Stadium. I go, why? He goes, because Novak Djokovic's playing right now, and There's like nobody in the crowd. And I guess I'm surprised. I'm like, wow, that's Novak Djokovic. Like most major wins of all time on the men's side. And no one's at his match. I'm like, well, it's 90 degrees. It's Tuesday. It's early in the tournament. It's only the second round. It's 2:00 at this point. I'm like, maybe, people can't go to Novak. We got school starting soon. Like, whatever. I'm like, yeah, well, we can't go to Novak. Too bad. But I go to my dad. I go, hey, Iga Swiatek, the number one women's player, is playing at Louis Armstrong Stadium right now. If no one's at Novak, maybe no one's watching Iga. So we walk to Louis Armstrong Stadium, and boom, there we are, upper deck, pretty good seats midway up, watching Iga Swiatek play against her opponent, the number one player in the world. We watched her play for a full set and change. It was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. And I don't know that watching a tennis major had ever been on my sports bucket list, but I'm now crossing it off my sports bucket list. I have seen a lot of cool things in my life sports-wise. Like I've been to... Danny, let me ask you, what have you done sports-wise that you consider cool? Anything big you've been to?
A couple Celtics games, a couple baseball games. Yeah.
Okay. So generally, and I'm not demeaning them, but generally normal games. Not right. You haven't been to a playoff game or anything.
No, nothing major.
Okay. So I have seen I've been to a World Series game, White Sox Astros 2005. I've been to an ALCS game, Mariners Yankees 2000. I've been to multiple NCAA tournaments. I've been to the Elite Eight twice. Syracuse beating Texas in 2003. No, Syracuse beating Oklahoma in 2003. Carmelo Anthony, Jerry McNamara, eventually going on to win the national title. I saw North Carolina against Wisconsin in the Elite Eight. Year North Carolina went on to win it with Rashad McCants and Sean May and Marvin Williams, etc. I saw that. I've been to... I've done cool things. Super Bowl Radio Row. This is now on that list of cool things I've done. And I don't know that I need to go to any other majors. I don't know that I need to go to Australia or Wimbledon or whatever. But saying I saw a major tournament in person was very, very cool. And then I got to post up and see the number one player in the world. When is it ever you get to see the number one player in the world at anything? Okay. I saw LeBron James his rookie year in person, regular season game, Nets and Cavaliers. But we didn't know LeBron was the best in the world then. Iga Swiatek is the best player in the world right now on the women's side. Several Grand Slam title wins. I believe won the U.S. Open last year in New York. And I got to say, I saw her right there, and she very well may win it again. It was very, very cool. Very, very excited. I have determined that watching tennis in person is very, very fun, but I ultimately don't love the idea of having to give up 4.5 or 5 hours to watch a match. Like that Tsitsipas match was incredible, but it lasted 4.5, 5 hours. I don't need to watch a 5-hour sporting event in person. If it was the final, then I would have been okay. But 5 hours for a second round match is not something that I needed. I liked the idea of being able to bop around and catch a bunch of different matches and not being locked into one. So there's my advice on that. 802-585-3026. Text says, Disc Golf World Championships this weekend at Smugs. It's one of the best sporting events I've ever attended. You should check it out. Best players in the world there, seriously and obviously. Now, when I first read that, I kind of thought maybe that was going to be a sarcastic comment. No, the Disc Golf World Championships are at Smugs this weekend. They're a big deal. Tommy Gardner, the Still Reporter, was on the afternoon news service. He was talking about them as well. He's all focused on that. He's going. So, and anybody who's the best, like table tennis, disc golf, mini golf, I don't care. If you're the best, I got interest in watching you. And to be able to see the best in the world was pretty fun. And didn't get back last night into Albany until almost midnight. It was a crazy long day. Here we are again today. And ton of fun. And now, at least we have the U.S. Open on in the studio. I have a frame of reference now, being able to tell Danny, like, hey, Monfils and Rublev are playing right now. And I'm pretty sure, that's the grandstand. And, hey, Danny, that's where we sat up there. And I'm all for it. I am all for it. We were watching before the show started. Svitolina was playing, the Ukrainian women's player. They were playing, I believe, in Louis Armstrong Stadium. I'm like, Danny, right up there, that's where I was. And very, very cool. And my dad had fun, and more importantly, it was a great memory for him with me and my brother, and a great way to celebrate his birthday, although it was a couple months late. So 802-585-3026. Danny, anything on your sports bucket list that you really want to go to?
Oh, man. Well, now that you say the U.S. Open, yeah, I want to check that out someday.
Are you a tennis guy? Like, do you enjoy watching it at least?
I do. I'll watch the finals a lot more than the regular, matches leading up to it, but
in the early rounds.
Correct.
I am all for the majors. Like I said, I'll watch any level of the majors, any rounds, most players, but you won't find me watch. I would like to go to the Montreal Open. And I someone can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe the Montreal Open alternates every other year between men's players and women's players. So the top women are there one year, top men are there the next year, keep going back and forth. So I would love to go to the Montreal Open and see the top players in the world, because I believe the Montreal Open is a hard court tournament that readies you for the U.S. Open, because the U.S. Open is a tournament on hard courts. So when they come stateside to the U.S. and to North America, they're playing on hard courts. So I think Montreal Open is one of these things that leads into the U.S. Open. I would like to go to that. All right, that's enough tennis talk. I had a blast doing it. I recommend going if you can. Ask me anything you want about it. You could text in 802-585-3026. Enough tennis talk, though. Let's get to football talk. Patriots got their roster down to 53 on Tuesday. They made some surprising moves then. They followed it up with a pretty surprising move now. We'll talk about the latest on the Pats roster here on DEV.
Looking for a home of your own, but think it's out of reach? Habitat for Humanity is seeking applications for a home ownership opportunity in Barrie. The 2 or 3 bedroom, 1.5 bath home is located just off Barrie's South Main Street and is a 9-minute walk to Spalding High School. The 1,300 square foot home will be on municipal water and sewer. Qualified applicants must be within Central Vermont Habitat for Humanity's income limits. Limits are based on up to 80% area median income. Applicants must either live or work in Washington or Orange County, must be willing to volunteer hours, and must be able to show $500 in a bank account to cover closing costs. Download the application at centralvermonthabitat.org. Applications are due by noon on September 18th. Don't miss this opportunity. Applications are due September 18th at noon. To apply, go to centralvermonthabitat.org.
Hi, this is Peter Burke. Join me and Joel Nashman in the Garden Saturdays at 12:30. Let's talk about the garden. Garden basics, what's new in your garden, what's new in my garden, and I'd like to hear from you. Your phone calls make the show. So I look forward to hearing from you Saturdays at 12:30 in the garden on WDEV.
Inch by inch, row by row.
Jordan Preston here again from Preston's Kia in Montpelier. We all know what Kia has done for us in the aftermath of the flood in central Vermont. Here at Preston's Kia, we are very blessed to have a manufacturer stand behind us and their product. The 70 new cars they sent us are almost gone, but we still have so many more coming in. There are over 50 new Kias on the ground with 100 more on the way by the end of next month. Dad has promised Kia we will move all the new cars, so that's what we're gonna do. If you make $500 a week, you're pre-approved with payments as low as $15 a day. Our goal is 100% approval. Take advantage of all the rebates, all the incentives, huge trade allowances, and low financing rates. We'll do whatever it takes to earn and keep your business. Visit us online at PrestonsKia.com and view our complete inventory, or we'd love to see you live and in person on Route 2 just east of Montpelier. Tell them, little brother.
We want to see you in a Kia.
Attention bargain hunters, check out the new deals on the WDEV Trading Post online marketplace. Makita tools, including a hammer drill, straight shear, angle drill, and multi-tool. Some priced at more than half off. Summer isn't over yet. How about a Navarro inflatable kayak with paddle for just $300? These items are brand new and priced well below retail. Go to WDEVradio.com and click the tab for Trading Post online marketplace. Whatever your interest, sports.
It would be monumental if they could come away with 2 wins, right?
Current events.
Vermonters are very used to a serious, deliberate budget process.
Weather.
Now, typically, El Niños and La Niñas have generally a weaker effect.
WDEV has a podcast for you. Locally produced podcasts of our own shows and podcasts from our partners at CBS and ESPN. To access the full listing of podcasts, go to our website at WDEVradio.com.
Want Brady to hear your opinion on the sports stories of the day? Text in at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show, right here on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. Patriots football comes up a week from Sunday. Hard to believe, Danny, but here we are. Week 1 is upon us. We are going to get an NFL game that counts next Thursday. That's the official opener 1 week from today between the Chiefs and the Lions. Lions, obviously, an upstart team in the NFC. The Chiefs are defending champions. Patriots will play a couple days later against the Philadelphia Eagles. Patriots made their 53-man roster final on Tuesday, and over the last couple of days, a lot of the conversation has been about the Patriots not taking more than one quarterback, right? They cut Zappe. They put him on the practice squad. They cut Malik Cunningham. They put him on the practice squad. They brought those guys back. But for a while, they were down to just Mac Jones as their starting quarterback. Now today, they brought in Matt Corral. We'll get to that in a moment. So they do have 2 quarterbacks as it stands. But, Danny, kind of the frustration that I expressed with the Red Sox at the beginning of the show extends to the Patriots. Okay, the problem with the Red Sox was roster construction, right? They were counting on non-reliable players, on aging players, on too aging of players, too aging of veterans, guys with flimsy injury histories, right? There was too much building the roster on a house of cards. Well, the Patriots also have a similar frustration. It's not that they're relying on injured players, but the problem for the Patriots is that their roster construction also is very, very flawed. Okay, I look at the Patriots and their initial 53-man roster. They had 1 quarterback. They had 2 tight ends. They had like 11 offensive linemen. Only 5 offensive linemen can play at one time, Danny. That's true. Only 5 offensive linemen can play at one time. The Patriots had 11. What does that tell you? Okay, the Patriots don't know what they're doing at offensive line, that they have to keep everybody to throw a bunch of darts at the dartboard and see what sticks. And because they can't have to do that on the offensive line, they can't properly address the other positions on their roster. I am sorry, you need a backup quarterback. And now the Patriots have one in Matt Corral. We'll get to that again in a second. But you had to cut your 2 other quarterbacks because you had to cover up for your deficiencies at offensive line by taking 11 of them. You have 2 tight ends, one of which who missed time last year in Hunter Henry, and another in Mike Gesicki, who hasn't played in multiple weeks for you in the preseason, who we're hoping he'll be ready by week 1, or we're hoping that he'll be 100% by week 1, that you have no insurance for those guys. Why? Because you had to go and take 11 offensive linemen. Tom Curran of NBC Sports Boston spoke about the roster construction, Danny, and he's right in everything he says.
When you see there's 11 players on the roster because you don't have 7 that you know can do it for a variety of reasons, then you clearly didn't plan well enough. Don't be mystified as to why you're being asked. I mean, the gaslighting, the peeing on your leg and telling you it's raining is so consistent. And believe me, the upper reaches of this organization certainly can look down at coaching and go, what in God's name are they doing? We have 2 tight ends. One of them's good. The other one's just getting over an injury, and we're supposed to run 12 personnel? What in God's... I thought he got the point. This is a serious year.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, we talk about the Patriots. We had Evan Lazar on Monday on the show from Patriots.com. We talked about what kind of formations the Patriots are going to run in this year. And he said, I think we're going to see a lot of 12 personnel, which, I mean, look, if you're not a football guru, 12 personnel is 1 running back and 2 tight ends. That's where the 12 comes from. 1 running back, 2 tight ends. Well, how can you play 12 personnel confidently if you only have 2 tight ends, period? What if someone gets injured? What if somebody has to step out for a play or 2? Well, now, if that's the case, you end up not being able to run 12 personnel at all because you only have 2 tight ends. The roster construction for the Patriots is a frustration. The roster handling for the Patriots over the last few years has been a frustration. The handling of money has been a frustration. The handling of draft picks has been a frustration. The way the Patriots are built is confusing. 11 offensive linemen because you don't have 7 that you feel confident about. So because you have to throw darts at the wall for 11, you've shortchanged yourself in other valuable positions. This is a problem for the Patriots, right? Roster building was a problem for the Red Sox. It's a problem for the Patriots too. And as we go into week 1 of the season against the NFC champion Philadelphia Eagles, you're going to have enough depth to be able to compete in that game. You can't play with 11 offensive linemen against Philadelphia in week 1. You just can't. So I don't know what they have up their sleeves, but the same frustrations for the Red Sox exist for the Patriots as well. Danny, as we go to the season, how are you feeling about the Patriots?
Not great.
What's your biggest worry?
That they're 4th in their division.
Do you think that they're bad, or do you think the other teams around them are good?
I think, like you said, they're relying on other teams to fall apart, and that's not a strategy to win.
Yeah, let's get to that, because that's where I want to go next. Trey Wingo, who used to host ESPN Radio's morning show, but was at ESPN forever. Now I think he works for something called the Pro Football Network or Pro Football 365. He was speaking on NBC Sports Boston, and he was asked kind of for an optimistic outlook on the Patriots. And here's what he said.
I will say this, though. If you're a Patriots fan, the one thing you can be happy about is that there are little question marks about every team. You know, will Aaron be what the Jets need him to be? Something is or isn't really right with the Bills, and Tua's health is a huge question mark. So that's kind of the hope going forward, is that all these little things might be big things.
As you said, Danny, as I said, hope is not a strategy. Okay? Every team has a little bit of hope. Don't get me wrong. Every team is founded on a little bit of hope. But you can't have hope be your sole strategy as an organization. And that's where we're at right now for the Patriots. When Trey Wingo was asked, hey, what's the reason to be optimistic? And he says, hey, the best chance for the Patriots is that the other teams screw up. That's not a spot that I like to be in. That is not a spot that I like to be in. Okay, because now you're telling me that I need to go into every Patriots game wondering, okay, who for the other team is hurt? Who for the other team can we take advantage of? Who's the other team's playing at 50%? Which quarterback are we playing that's not playing this week, right? Like last year when the Patriots played Cleveland, hey, they got Brissett, not Deshaun Watson. A couple years ago when they got Cleveland without Nick Chubb, hey, that's great. That can't be an every week thing. You have to be good enough to win games in this. You have to be able to win games in this league on your own merit, not just because other teams bumble things around you. Okay, the everybody might screw up thing, that's for the Texans. Okay, that's for the Lions. That's for the Cardinals. That's for also-rans of NFL history, for teams that have been to the doldrums. That's not for the New England Patriots, and that's not supposed to be for Bill Belichick. If the Patriots have fallen so far that their best outcome is hoping that Tua is hurt or hoping that the Bills, infight themselves to death, that is a problem. Okay, that is a problem. And I don't like hearing that. Now, let's get to the news of the day with the Patriots, and that is that the Patriots signed Matt Corral to be their second-string quarterback. This is a guy who was taken in the 3rd round last year by the Carolina Panthers. They ultimately cut him. Why? I'm not really sure. Well, they cut him because they've got Bryce Young, who's the number 1 pick in the draft. They've also got Andy Dalton. There's 2. I guess they don't feel the need to take 3 quarterbacks because they gave up a guy who was under team control for several years, who had a 3-year, had 3 years left on his rookie deal. They moved on from him. Here's what I'll say. I like having Matt Corral more than I like having Bailey Zappi. Matt Corral played at Ole Miss in the SEC against the best college competition in the world. Bailey Zappi played at Western Kentucky. There's a difference there. Now, Bailey Zappi has played more games in the NFL than Matt Corral has, so he does have experience, but I like the level of play that Corral clearly has better. Clearly has athletic traits that Zappi doesn't have. He was able to play in the SEC. He can run a little bit. He's played well in the preseason. I would like to have Matt Corral more than Bailey Zappi. At the same time, Matt Corral has never played in Bill O'Brien's system, and Bailey Zappi was no good in Bill O'Brien's system and couldn't learn it properly over the course of an entire offseason. How do I think that Matt Corral is ultimately going to come in right away, day one, and be a great backup quarterback? Like, if Mac Jones gets mauled by the Eagles D-line game one, am I really counting on Matt Corral to come in off the street in 10 days and lead the team capably? So if Matt Corral was an interesting flyer quarterback number 3, I'd probably love it. The fact that they need him now to be quarterback number 2, that's a little bit of a precarious situation. Will says, Pat's offensive line against the Philly D-line? I don't think so. Yeah, that's true. Philly defensive line is certainly a very good unit, right? Got them to the Super Bowl a year ago. They're very good offensively. We know about Hurts. We know about A.J. Brown. We know about the running game. But you look at that defensive line, and it can absolutely maul you, and it could maul the Patriots, and it could maul Mac Jones. Texter wants to know if Brady, was there a national tennis event in Stowe in 1979? Jimmy Connors played in it. I don't know. Maybe. Someone who's a lot older than me can let us know, 802-585-3026, about if there was a national tennis event in Stowe. It's very possible. It's very possible. But I certainly don't know that. I don't have, Vermont tennis history tattooed on my forehead. Yesterday was the first tennis match I've ever seen in person. I haven't had a lot of chances to see tennis in person, but yesterday was the first tennis match I've ever seen in person. And it happened to come in a major, which was great, but I don't have the Stowe Open from 1979 on my forehead. So, all right, 802-585-3026. There is one or two other things I want to get to on the Patriots here. Oh, here's our guy, Phil Perry, NBC Sports Boston, just echoing everything I've said heading into the regular season.
Well, if you look at what he has in terms of weaponry and in terms of the investments that they've made in the protection system around him, it's not enough to contend, in my opinion. And that's just looking at the numbers. You can follow the money. Trent Brown is their one real lock at tackle, and he's not paid like a high-end tackle. We don't even know who's going to be the tackle on the other side. We know what he's dealing with at receiver, and I like some of those players. I mentioned Pop Douglas earlier. I think he's going to ascend as the year goes on. I really like his skill set. Kendrick Bourne, I think, is going to have a much better year than he did a year ago. But at his best, what is he? He's not one of these superstar receivers that a lot of young quarterbacks that are on rookie contracts and low salaries are able to work with early in their careers to help them along and allow them to establish themselves.
Danny, that's just word for word, basically, what I've said for the last 6 months. I don't even really have a follow-up to it. It's more just an I told you so. That as we think about this Patriots team, that's where we're at, and that's how the experts, foresee them. I'd like to be optimistic about the Patriots as well. I like the Red Sox. I do not think the Patriots are an awful team. I can foresee a world where they win 8 games, where they win 9 games, where they're in it as the 7th wild card, or as the 7th playoff team, or the final playoff team, or they're battling for it. I can foresee that world. I can also see them falling on their face and winning 6 games because of what Phil said, the lack of talent. Offensive line's a problem spot. Wide receiver lacks a true guy. Quarterback lacks someone special. You put it all together, I don't think the soup is going to taste particularly good there. And I want the Patriots to be a team that can get back to the playoffs and be playing in the final weekends of January. And right now, they don't feel like that team. They do not have the talent that other teams in the AFC have. And I just remain befuddled by the idea that other rookie quarterbacks or other rookie contract quarterbacks can get a lot of help, and Mac Jones can't get much of anything, right? Joe Burrow is great on his own. He's got Joe Mixon, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Hayden Hurst at tight end. Now they're investing in the defense. They gave him a couple offensive linemen last year. Okay, that's pretty good. Pretty good setup for the kid. I look at Tua. We got questions about him against Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Okay, I'll take that. Mac Jones gets also ran wide receivers, second and third rate wide receivers. I'm with Phil. I like some of the Patriots players individually. I like Kendrick Bourne. I like Devontae Parker. But they needed a DeAndre Hopkins. They refused to give that to Mac Jones. And as a result, they're going to be a team that I continue to think of as a 7-9 win team, 7-10 at best, but probably 7-9 and probably in the 7 or 8 range. We'll see what happens. They got week 1 coming up against the Eagles on September 10th, and we're home for Patriots football this year. Well, I've got to look at the schedule exactly how things conflict with the Red Sox. That first Patriots game is 4:25. I hope that means that we can do it because the Red Sox will be playing early that day. We'll have the full schedule here, I'm sure, soon on WDEVradio.com. All right, we'll finish up the show. I got one Celtics note for Danny. I want his opinion on that. Brad Stevens spoke to the media the other day. Ask Danny a question about Brad Stevens' comments. We'll get to all of it next on the Brady Farkas Show on DEV.
Hi, I'm Paul, the president of Green Mountain Solar. Solar can be a great investment in your home or business, but just like any other project you'd do, it's important to take your time and do your research. So many companies push a quick sell or create an artificial timeline to close. They're afraid if you do your due diligence, they'll lose the deal. At Green Mountain Solar, we want you to feel confident in your decision. That's why we always start with an on-site evaluation. Sure, we have the same digital tools as others do for remote assessments, but it has only shown us how important an on-site evaluation is to assess your site and energy needs. I mean, really, what other home improvement would you let someone do a remote assessment on and then come drill holes in your roof? Before you let someone pressure you to sign, please reach out to us. We're here to help you get the best solar for you. Find us at greenmtnsolar.com. That's greenmtnsolar.com.
At Fisher Investments, our clients know we have their backs.
How do your clients know that?
Because Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, the highest standard for a financial advisor. It means we're there for our clients and always put their interests first.
So wait, you do it because you have to?
No, we do it because it's the right thing to do. Our clients trust us with their retirement savings, and we know how important that responsibility is. So we take the time to really get to know them.
Get to know them how?
We make sure we understand their unique goals, finances, health, family, and lifestyle, so we can tailor their portfolio to their specific needs. Our goal is to help them achieve a comfortable retirement.
Sounds like a big responsibility. You must make big commissions then, right?
No, we don't sell commission-based products. We have one single transparent fee that's structured so we do better when our clients do better. Visit FisherInvestments.com to find out why investors like you are switching to us. Fisher Investments, clearly different money management.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
What's ahead for the job market with the explosion of artificial intelligence? I'm Gil Gross, or at least I think I am. I could be a chatbot. And on the Labor Day special from CBS News Radio, we will look at AI and what skills you'll need to stay employed. Also, the unexpected comeback of unions, what led to their downfall in the first place, including the strange saga of Jimmy Hoffa. Doing a cookout? Do marinades really do anything? The answer to that and more in the Labor Day special from CBS News Radio.
It's a Friday-Sunday racing doubleheader at the nation's site of excitement, Thunder Road. Friday night, McGee Hyundai of Barrie presents a full card of racing with added purse events for the late models, Flying Tigers, Street Stocks, and Road Warriors. Adult admission is $15. Kids age 6 to 12, $5, and the family 4-pack, 2 adults, 2 kids, just $30. Kids 5 and under free with a post time of 7 o'clock. Then on Sunday afternoon, New England Federal Credit Union presents the 45th annual Labor Day Classic. The region's top late model drivers go 200 laps for the Labor Day honors, plus Flying Tigers, Street Stocks, and Road Warriors. Adult admission, $25. Kids age 6 to 12, $10. 5 and under free with a green flag flying at 1 p.m. Don't miss the action. Friday and Sunday at the nation's site of excitement, Thunder Road, high atop Quarry Hill in Barrie.
Think you know sports better than Brady does? Text in with your thoughts at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show right here on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. I know it's not basketball season yet. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but because they had the Nesson and WEEI Jimmy Fund Telethon over the last couple of days, all the bigwigs around Boston sports were out talking to Nesson and talking to WEEI. Well, one of them was Brad Stevens. He was talking on WEEI yesterday, and he was talking about the trade of Marcus Smart. And Danny, since you're a big Celtics fan, I want to bounce what Brad Stevens says off of you. So Stevens was asked about the trade of Smart and how it impacts the locker room dynamic. Let's hear what Brad Stevens has to say.
I think our locker room, we've been
chock full of a lot of quality people for a long time. And, that gives other people a voice. It gives other people a voice to step into and step up to. And, very obviously we need Jason and Jalen to continue to grow in that area. And we think they're among the best that there can be. And so we need them to step up to that. And
so Brad Stevens says he's not worried about the Celtics losing Marcus Smart. He thinks that Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum can do it, and he's looking for them to do it. Danny, are you someone that is nervous as a diehard Celtics fan, bigger Celtics fan than I am? Are you nervous about the locker room dynamic at all in the wake of the trade of Marcus Smart?
I think if they start losing, that's when they'll be tested to see if they have that leader in the locker room like Smart was.
I am someone who is nervous, and I like when things are established. I like when things are clear, and I like when there's an order to be followed. And it has been very clear that Marcus Smart is the alpha male in the Celtics locker room for the last couple of years, right? Once Kyrie Irving left and the bad juju was gone, now Marcus Smart was a guy who assimilated into that role, and for a couple of years, he had it, and he was the guy to be followed. Well, with him gone, I now worry about what happens in the locker room. Yes, put me in that group of people that's worried. It's not that I think Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are bad leaders. It's not that I think they're bad people. But when you have people fighting for the loudest voice, I don't love that because I don't know exactly what it's all going to mean. Okay, because Jason Tatum makes all the money, or Jaylen Brown makes all the money right now. Jason Tatum still sees himself as the best player. Does Jaylen Brown try to assert himself as, hey, I'm the leader of the team because now I'm the guy who's getting paid? Does Jason Tatum say, easy, buddy, I'm going to get the contract next year. I'm the guy with my picture out here on the front of TD Garden. I'm the leader. And now is there infighting? I thought for a while that Tatum and Brown were kind of conflicting on the court in terms of who's the alpha. Are they going to conflict in terms of off the court stuff? Who's the alpha? I do worry about it. Doesn't mean that it can't be fixed. Doesn't mean that it can't be perfect. Doesn't mean that I won't be wrong. But if you're asking me if I'm worried, yes, when we have many, many voices all fighting to get to the top, then I think there could be problems. All right, that's going to do it for us here on the Brady Farkas Show on this Thursday. I hope you all have a great night. We'll be back at it again tomorrow for a full show Friday. Hard to believe it will be our final Friday without, our final Football Talk Friday. Football Talk Friday, less Friday, however you want to say it. But next Friday, we'll be getting ready for the Patriots and the Eagles. Hard to believe that tomorrow is our last Friday to not really be headlong into football. Thanks to you for listening. Thanks to Buster Olney. The podcast channel will be hopping here momentarily with Buster's interview and the full show. Thanks to Danny. We'll see you tomorrow for another full 90 minutes. Jazz with George Thomas is next on DEV.
As a teacher, there's nothing more rewarding than watching kids grow through music. And it's a lot more than seeing them learn an instrument.